ladies and gentlemen, this is Benjamin Breaker Navani, and I'm back with a replay that I took from the spawningtool.com. Now, spawning as our red Terran in the upper right-hand corner of the map, we do, of course, have Federer. Oh, excuse me, Shalashaka. And spawning at what would appear to be the 9 o'clock position of Catallena, it is our blue Protoss, Federer. Now, I'm actually a little bit surprised that I was able to actually load this replay directly from the Legacy of the Void client, but it's all the more power to me and all the more convenience. That being said, we're going to go ahead and dive into the game and think for a minute about what could possibly come up on this map, since we are, of course, on a 3-player spawn map. I do think that the potential for someone to be scouted earlier on in the game is, of course, much, much higher. It's a coin flip. You either send your scouting unit to the wrong direction or right direction right off the bat. But of course, I do obviously adore the fact that Federer is going to go ahead and go for a gateway expo at the very, very least. Trying to go for anything earlier than a double gas cybernetics core into a natural can potentially be suicide if you are a Protoss player. But now my curiosity is perked. Are we going to see a Reaper expand? It looks like most likely yes from Shalashaka. He's going to be going ahead and trying to take that route. He hasn't sent an SCV just to scout his opponent just yet. But that being said, I think we have a very normal game on our hands thus far. Single gas being taken by Federer. It'll be interesting to see whether or not he takes a second gas. As mentioned before, not going for a natural expand, or excuse me, whoa, what is this? Uh-oh. Well, okay, well, that's just, how do I say this? This is a slightly abnormal position for a pylon at this stage in the game, but I'm sure Federer has his own reasons to do that. Once you stop and think about it for a minute, I guess it makes sense, because if you put a pylon here and your opponent is going for a Reaper expand, then typically your pylon here at this location should be able to catch onto that Reaper, but I don't see why it wouldn't. Some parts of it just don't make sense. I'm sure he has his own reasons nonetheless, and we're about to find out what they are. Still not taking a second gas just yet is our Protoss. And that first Reaper is about 80% done as we check back on Shalashaka as part of the map, and it looks like he is floating quite a bit of resources. Gonna go ahead and take that natural expo. Cybernetics core on the way for our Protoss, and ooh boy, playing with fire, dancing with fire is our Protoss. He is getting the mothership core out, however. This could potentially be a build order loss if we saw, of course, maybe Shalashaka go for something a little bit cheesy, like say 3 racks forward pressure, but now we do not have that as our scenario. Shalashaka is going to go ahead and send that Reaper into his opponent's main. You'll see that the second gas is coming in a little bit late. He saw the natural, of course, already on the way, and he sees the mothership core coming out. Again, just a teeny bit late. So what's the disadvantage of this coming out from our Protoss? Well, obviously the later mothership core. A little bit less energy is going to be available on it. That means nothing like Time Warp will be available. Nexus Cannon will be available just a little bit later, but of course it can also throw off your timings at the ultra high level of refined play. Do have a second barracks on the way, and it's most interesting to note that from Shalashaka, he actually does not have a tech lab out just yet, and surprisingly enough, he's not going for a tech up in that regards. He is focused now on getting quite a few units out. The question is, what are they going to be? He's not floating too terribly much in the way of gas at this moment, but I'm pretty sure he might be soon enough. Meanwhile, back at the base of Federer, he still has the Reaper. He's still toying around, but he doesn't see the tech up of choice, that Robo. And this Reaper looks like it's in some rather severe danger. I mean, is it going to get shut down? It will be. So this is not, I mean, the Robo's not going to be scouted unless we have Shalashaka go for a scan right now, or unless he's going to try and send something speedy into his opponent's main, but that's not likely to happen. Oh boy. At this stage, of course, we do have our Stalker making its way across the map, and that means Federer is going to be able to get a slight read into just what is coming from our red Terran. Meanwhile, that Robo is just about to finish up at home for our blue Protoss. And the question is, what's he going to do with that? I like how he's going to abuse his opponent's lack of bunker at the natural. But of course, these few Marines might be able to shut that Stalker out. Ooh, in fact they do. Alright. So, there it is. The Robo's done, but what's going to be made here is the real question. I don't think there's anything that can help in the near future. Immortals versus this number of Marines might be a bit of an oxymoron. But as I say that, we do of course have an Observer on the way. We've got a couple of gateways. The thing is, the Observer, yes, it'll give him some vision as to what's coming at him at this moment, but I feel like it's coming too late. I mean, right now, this is a lot of thick and thin to work through, but there is a Nexus cannon available. Energy will be forced off of that Bomba Ship core, and for the time being, we're gonna have Shalashaka just back off, say, hey man, is there an Observer here? What's going on? And he does have the scan. Still unaware of that Robo for the time being. But of course, nothing is coming out of it just yet. We do have the third gas ready to go at the natural Federer. He's not putting any workers on it. Just, you know, I guess you could say some slightly erroneous diamond play, not worth crying over at this point. I think all players make this mistake, even the pros, So Shalashaka is just going to break back and go home for the time being. He does, of course, have his tech ups on the way. He's got the factory. He's got the starport on its way as well. But this is one of those things that has you just a little bit confused as a spectator if you don't play Terran or Protoss. And what I mean by that is, I'm a Zerg player. So the question is, who's ahead in this regards? One might say our Protoss, but at the same time, our Terran has the ability to crank out mules. So I feel like the income is really not too off shot from each player. I mean, you can see they're kind of at each other's throats with the income wars, if you will. But of course, that's because Terran has mules, while our Protoss has a higher worker count. We do apparently have some kind of a move out coming out from Federer, and this is looking a little bit strange thus far. Why does he have so many Stalkers? Is one question that's coming through the one question that's going through the mind of Shalashaka. I would imagine. At least that's what I would think. Alright. Marauders, Marines, Medevacs. Standard tools of destruction at a Terran's disposal. And he is now getting ready to move out. He's already moving out, in fact. But I do think there's a part of Federer that is slightly reluctant to move out. He doesn't have blink on these Stalkers, but it's remarkable to note that he's actually going for charge on his Zealots. Okay, so looks like Shalashaka is about to find out maybe a little bit the hard way just what his opponent has. Although at this stage in the game, it's quite normal to see a Robo. It might not be to see this many Colossus out in the early game. Extended Thermal Lance is about 30 seconds away from finishing, and Marines and Marauders, I imagine, are going to pick up pretty soon. Are they or are they not? That's the real question. I mean, Shalashaka's got all these units, but he's not using them just yet. This is a little bit strange to the ordinary observer. I don't see the decision making behind this from either side. But there's more and more Zealots coming into the game. Third base is getting started now, and it has been picked up on by Federer.
Research complete.
Something was canceled. What on earth was it? Let's check that for just a minute. I ordinarily wouldn't do this, but okay. It was just an extra barracks. And then, okay. Trying to give that too much thought. Whatever floats your boat. But now, as the game progresses, we've got +2 attacks and concussive shells on the way from Shalashaka. This is something I imagine we would expect to see earlier on. Alright. Scan coming down again. Does he get the observer? Did he get the observer? That's the real question. He did. He did. Alright, he took it down. Oh, but there's an SCV train coming, pulling the boy. No? Not yet, not yet. Okay, okay. There's something a little bit strange, if you will. Colossus, well, they catch on to that Marine, and he's gone. So now I imagine Shalashaka knows what he's up against, for the most part. Nice little pylon here. Gonna come close to the third. And on paper, I imagine this is where you tell yourself you cannot let a Terran out macro you. You can't just simply let him throw down bases, of course. Look at the third. It's already going down now for our Protoss. And that being said, Shalashaka picks up on it, but there's a pylon between him and his route to that third. So I wonder if this is going to make him reconsider going to this position to attack, considering, I mean, Federer should know what's coming at him. There will be a Nexus cannon available should he choose to expend it, should he choose to bring the Mothership Core along for the ride. Things of that nature. Both players just, you know, kind of standing back a little bit, waiting. I don't understand the decision making behind this from either sides, to be honest. I mean, they're reading into each other, they're backing off, yes, they're not really fighting head on, but that is a lot of Vikings coming into the mix, I might add. Alright, well, too many Vikings, you can land them on the ground, they can soak up damage from Stalkers, Zealots, whatever have you, while the bio goes to work on all those gateway units. And I think this number of Vikings is more than enough to handle this mix of gateway units and Colossi. Oh boy, the real pulling of the boys, oh my god. That's more than 48 SCVs. That's almost 60 SCVs getting pulled along for the ride on this one. All right, here we go. There's still gonna be mules at home, but both, I mean, scans have just been expended. They catch on to the positioning of those Colossi, and now they're going up. This is gonna put a lot of focus fire on the SCVs as opposed to the army itself. The Vikings going to work on those Colossus, and now it looks like this entire army is just about evaporating. The Vikings don't even care if they get destroyed or not. Hallucinated Colossus gets knocked out the moment that it gets called in. And this one, as soon as it hits the third, is shot out of the sky. We've got the Stalkers trying to do so much damage to this bio, but the SCVs coming in tanking. Federer realizes the vanity of his situation and leaves the game without even typing out a GG. I think, well, I mean, I would kind of be irritated in that regard. Psionic Storm was so far behind. But ladies and gentlemen, this is Benjamin Breaker Novotny, and I'll see you guys next time.